Hi, I'm James Wiley. I'm the Managing Director of Temper Digital, and this is my colleague Luke Wootton, who is the Digital Director. And we create expert-led innovation communities, and we put the technology into these things, and we've been doing it for some time. And one thing we've noticed with the current state of play with the technology is, given the fact that it's built on forums and chats, and given the fact that it's built on messaging, and all these kind of fairly LinkedIn-esque communication features, what happens is when you're building a community, you inevitably get to the plateau where you've done all the work, the people are on board, there's conversations happening, and then it reaches a place where those conversations can't happen anymore because the community doesn't offer anything, any kind of collaborative tools or anywhere where these conversations can happen. So what ends up happening is you end up almost serving the job of a network builder, and then all the delightful innovation and all the delightful collaboration that happens will happen off your community. And so we want to change that, and we've been looking at building the community of the future and turning conversations into collaborative action.
So when we say expert-led innovation communities, these are sort of specific type of community. So going beyond sort of discussion and things like that. So an expert-led community is a structured, sort of knowledge-driven network where industry leaders, researchers, professionals collaborate to solve problems. So these go beyond social groups and prioritize high quality discourse, structured collaboration, knowledge retention to ensure that innovation isn't just talked about, that it's developed and executed. Now that's the goal. And as James said, often what happens is that it never quite achieve that goal. But the characteristics that they aspire to, are the sort of the depth of expertise, largely built around deep subject matter knowledge, where experts in their field sort of congregate. It tends to be mission driven as well. So it's not just there for to casually chat or to even just broadcast and advertise services and things like that. But actually they tend to be purpose driven, tackling complex challenges, advancing research, etc. They tend to be spaces for collaborative knowledge. So the aim is to not just exchange ideas, but to actually build on expertise and create meaningful new ideas and share resources and things like that. They tend to be governed by the community as well. So not just have a singular sort of institution that directs it, but actually has groups of community board members and things like that. And the idea is for long-term engagement and impact. This isn't, again, just not about just online discussions and chatting and this, that, and the other, but actually to do something that's a bit more long term and to create some element of impact. And they tend to evolve as well. That's one of the biggest things that we see. They tend to get set up at the start, with some base sort of features and tools, and then their actually needs sort of evolve over time. So they're continuously adapting, integrating new knowledge and perspectives into the way that they work and think. They're really important. Expert-led innovation communities matter a lot right now. Challenges we face today, sustainability, climate change, or healthcare policies, this, that, and the other, require more and more collective collaboration, iteration, and input. So these sort of communities solve complex challenges, and these requires collaboration. Breakthroughs happen when you get different disciplines together. Sort of, they could be sort of in the same sort of general field, but then you get different areas of expertise within it, and innovation breakthroughs tend to happen at those intersections. They're also important because traditional knowledge sharing is a bit broken at the moment. There's a lot of information overload. We sort of live in an information overload time, especially with AI and this, that, and the other sort of being very convincing in how it sort of outputs information. But actually knowledge in and of itself is scattered and disconnected. It can often be buried in maybe Slack over here, maybe a discussion on LinkedIn over there, a conversation here. And it sort of gets fragmented in general. So actually, bringing together insights is really important into these expert-led innovation communities. Social media as well, and typical forum structures, they tend to reward popularity over expertise. And even Google just gives you search results rather than actual expert consensus. So it's very important at the moment to sort of create these innovation communities. There's a change in how work happens now as well. It's not so hierarchical. It's more networked. It's global.
Global is important actually, because you'll have pockets of expertise working on different challenges in different places, in different companies, and bringing those, having a community that can bring those people together for discourse is such a valuable thing to have.
Yeah, we're not really restricted anymore to just the people in your organization or just nearby. Do you know what I mean? So having these things is really important. And of course, AI and automation, it's here. It demands new ways to work and innovate, and actually leaning into that is important. It's not going to replace experts, but actually people who use it will outpace those that don't. So it's important to sort of have a look at how these communities are evolving and how we might use AI and automation tools to enhance them.
I think the use of those tools as well is particularly good for communities because of their ability to make sense of unstructured information. So you've got lots and lots of unstructured information, and they can just pull it together, make sense, and give it some clarity, which is really useful.
Exactly. So traditional community platforms, they tend to have their limitations. They're sort of born of discussions or broadcasting and things like that. So forums are a classic, discussion groups, Slack, LinkedIn discussions. And they are crucial, and they have been crucial in facilitating online collaboration, but they were never designed at their core for structured innovation. So you have a lack of structured knowledge retention. You tend to have discussions that happen in a linear and isolated thread, which means the same questions and topics can be resurfaced repeatedly, and you have the same discussions over and over. And there's no built-in way to structure evolving discussions into actionable knowledge. And again, so engagement tends to be measured by activity traditionally. I've posted 5 posts in this particular community, but there might have been 5 really bad posts. Yeah, but you get your little badge. Yeah, and you're rewarded for your activity rather than the quality of your input, which means that active users, that may not necessarily be quality users, tend to dominate the discussions, which then leads to people having to wade through sort of low value discussions, which can then turn people off of engaging in the community altogether, because they go in there, they just see a sea of low quality stuff going on there, and they think, well, why should I bother sort of contributing to this? Also, because these the traditional community platforms are born of the sort of discussion sort of paradigm, they're designed for conversation and not creation. So discussions might generate ideas, but there's no sort of built-in tools and mechanisms to refine those ideas, to validate them, to execute them, to turn them into real things. So true innovation requires structured collaboration tools, not just messaging and discussion. Often you find that the people use multiple platforms as well to sort of form their community. It could be things like Slack, Teams, it could be a discussion forum. It all sort of comes together on different platforms because there's no one sort of place to have all of this stuff. And that means that all your information is fragmented on completely different places that you can never truly connect. So fragmentation, causes friction. Users have to switch between multiple platforms to access relevant stuff, to get past insights and this, that, and the other, which is just a sort of a bit of a barrier to meaningful contribution. And moderating and governing them can be a challenge as well. Human moderators, while essential, and having community managers is essential to having a good community. As they scale, it becomes more and more sort of a challenge to moderate them, to sort of highlight sort of toxic behavior, misinformation, spam, all of that stuff becomes much more difficult in a traditionally community structures.
So you're saying the tech stack in some ways isn't quite up to scratch for what we need to do if we're going to have progressive innovation communities and solve real world challenges in them. You're almost saying that the tech stacks that we're using in order to facilitate that are not quite there.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they formed a very crucial beginning for connecting people, but then there's nothing there to really turn it into anything real and actionable.
Yeah.
So, looking at the future of it all, we think we need to move beyond that passive engagement. So as we said, the traditional model relies on reactive discussion, questions are responsive, but it lacks that structured pathway. We need to shift to AI-powered co-creation spaces. So the next generation of platforms got to blend that sort of AI-driven insights, that understanding of all of that unstructured data and information that's going on in your community, to unlock the full potential of that collective knowledge. And there's a few ways of doing it that we've highlighted. You've got ideation and collaboration tools. So we can as all this information is going into the community platform, we can synthesize those discussions. You can identify trends. You can structure insights from all of that unstructured conversation. You can create shared workspaces. So these can be sort of collaborative documents, whiteboards, blueprints, and because these are based in communities that are publishing and discussing knowledge. It becomes more than say a simple Google Doc or a whiteboard space. This can sort of be enriched and empowered by allowing you to just draw in any of the insights in the community at any time. So you can have something that's a collaborative document, and as you're working on it, you can start pulling in and cross-referencing what you're saying and what you're developing in those documents with stuff that's already been published on the platform. You can also use AI to organize the knowledge and curate. So that's a really important part of it. Like I say, generally, the information that's going on these platforms is unstructured, but actually because AI tools, natural language processing and things like that can really understand the context of what's being said, it can very quickly and very accurately organize all of that into a way that can then be quickly accessed. So your community becomes more of a living knowledge hub.
I think we've seen that in play when if you're new to some kind of community and there's like 5 or 6 years worth of discussions, videos, various topics to immerse yourself into. One thing we always think is you need a team of researchers to even make sense of that, let alone do anything useful with it, and which would take weeks of time as well. So and these AI tools now, we can point them and we can point them at the data and they can unpick it, structure it, give us some feedback on it, allow us to contextualize it and categorize it and do all kinds of amazing things that actually you wouldn't be able to do that without this technology. So the technology is really opening up some doors for us to be able to look at this type of unstructured information, which is amazing.
You can enhance engagement through expertise recognition. So rather than, as we said earlier, rather than sort of rewarding just activity, sort of raw activity, because the AI tools can understand the sort of thing that you're talking about and how well received that is, and this, that, and the other, you can sort of start to sort of highlight people who have become real experts in their field. So you've been contributing to and facilitating discussion about these sort of subject matters over here. That's the sort of you get recognized more as an expert in that part of it, rather than just you've posted 5 things, rather that you've posted meaningful content in a certain subject area, so you can start to get flagged as someone who's an expert in that, which can also assist with suggesting connections between people.
You don't see that done very well, do you? Like if you get badges, I get them sometimes on Facebook, having posted one thing on someone's thing, and the LinkedIn ones are particularly disappointing for what is a professional network. You can answer questions on LinkedIn and become an expert, in something that you don't do fairly easily, which almost makes a mockery of having the badges in the first place. Because
what's the broadness of something like LinkedIn? Whereas an expert-driven sort of community will, you're going to be surrounded by other experts in the field. So the fact that it's a bit more of a closed community anyway means that you get critiques by people who also have that expertise, rather than, like you say, 50,000 people liking something that you like on LinkedIn who have no idea whether it's good or not, really, but they like you. Again, assisting the governance and moderation. So another thing that we can do, obviously, is ensuring that sort of respectful, high quality Discord is maintained without, or you can highlight to community managers anything that might be going on that's a problem. Another interesting thing is consensus and emerging topic recognition, because it can understand what's being said. you can start to identify trends of what of oh, this month this is really be happening. Everyone's been talking about this month on the network, so you can start to identify real trends in emerging topics. But you can also look at and see where the consensus may have changed. Say you've got 4 years worth of discussion and input from a community. The AI tools can say, oh, well, actually, 4 years ago, everyone thought this, but actually, recently they think this. It's changed. There's been a shift. And I think that's a really important sort of thing, like door that can be opened really by this technology, where you can really start to see how things are shifting over time, which you would never really be able to do before, unless you had, like James says, a whole team of people analyzing stuff all the time.
For me, that's one of the most interesting points of this, because if you imagine, and we've seen these in communities where, there'll be 4 or 5 topics often that get discussed over a long period of time. And to be able to have it kind of alert you that something is happening and changing within it, just draws you back into the topic. So you're not even, it's a bit like, I don't know, newspapers try and do it where they try and bring you into things that you like, and the internet's forever trying to grab you into some kind of dialogue with it about something that it thinks you like. But if we can actually do that really well, and we can do that around topics that are changing, that are really important and driving innovation forward, then you might almost find people jumping on topics because they suddenly start to snowball again.
Yeah,
that's so
or you
powerful.
re-engage someone, for example, who may not have been on there for a year.
Yeah,
because the consensus has changed from what they were talking about a year ago. Yeah, and you can alert someone that actually, what you were talking about a year ago is actually everyone started to change their view on this, and that's really good sort of incentive for someone to come back and go, oh, okay, let's have a look at that.
Yeah, which is much different than the typical notifications you get if someone replies to your thread, right? Which could be anything, or it could be nothing.
Based. That sort of typical notification is like an activity has happened.
Yeah,
that's great. An activity has happened. I get it on my phone. With LinkedIn, every time I look at it, there's about 30 bits of activity, and it's like, I don't really care. And you have to look at each one to see whether you actually care about it. Whereas actually, if you're being notified because something meaningful has happened, something meaningful has changed, then actually it becomes much more valuable.
They've almost gone the other way, because they have AI created content, which you almost want to avoid at all costs.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have a post that can be made up that just doesn't mean anything, because then you're drawn back into the activity to read something that's inevitably has been made up by someone who hasn't really said it, which puts you off the, that almost removes you from the engagement. And it's also not, there's nothing expert driven about that whatsoever. So that is a really surprising thing in these kind of the trends that you see in these places. And I think what we're saying here is we're, implementing AI in a way that reverses that actually. And it's telling you that something is happening because people are putting in, actual knowledge in and real kind of having proper conversations actually. So it's almost reversing that trend that we're seeing, and having real people doing all the talking and all the conversing, and AI doing the analyzing, and letting us know what's going on today, or these things have happened that are interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And another part that a future community should be able to do is start to connect to other communities. We think this is really key for when communities reach like maturity. You don't want to stay too siloed into your own community when you can possibly connect out to other communities. So to having platforms that can meaningfully connect other communities to them will be key. So we can go into all this in a little bit more detail. So ideation and collaboration tools. So this is from taking conversations through to actionable innovation. So we're looking at real-time co-creation workspaces with next-generation collaboration tools. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but...
What does that mean? Explain that to me.
This is about, again, going back into those sort of shared documents, whiteboards, research papers and things like that, having live collaboration spaces.
So like a Google document kind of...
essentially. But again, because it sits within a community of knowledge, it can be enhanced by being able to pull in and synthesize stuff that's been published within the community as you're doing stuff. So rather than just a collaboration space where you can get multiple people in, which is important, you can start to as you're all collaborating in there, it can start to identify, you're typing something out, and you can start to identify resources that have already been published or conversations that were already happening on the community about that, and then you can pull that in and summarize, what's happening there to help you better form ideas. And I think, like you say earlier, this is not about using AI to create your ideas, yeah,
Yeah.
because like I said, that they're not, it's not your ideas. Yeah. This is about using AI to make sense of the vast amount of information that's already been published in your community, and it's already been talked about in your community, to help you further develop and guide your ideas.
Yeah. So you could do you could almost use it as your research assistant, because the communities are so full of knowledge in the first instance. Then you use it as your research assistant to help you whilst you're putting these things together.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
Exactly. Bringing things like integrated voice and video in is useful, because I think as time goes by, people are more used to being able to speak into things and record stuff. But of course, the beauty with AI is that you can generate transcripts and things from it, so that it can be more easily sort of digested. And then sort of, allowing AI to sort of structure drafts from different discussions, synthesize them, and summarize them, so that it can help you direct what you're doing. You've got brainstorming tools, so suggesting refinements, identifying gaps, and connecting related ideas. That's the other thing as well. So as you're developing your ideas, the other part that we can do with the AI stuff is to sort of say, okay, well, I can see that's what you're talking about here could be related to what's being published over here. That could be related to what someone else is publishing over there. So it can start to identify sort of related ideas that are being created at the same time, to help you better connect with people, to collaborate on them. Automated feedback, sentiment analysis. So that's things like surfacing the key points and tracking shifts in the consensus we talked about earlier. Sentiment analysis is something that AI does really well, to understand sort of how people are feeling, how people are talking about certain subjects and different things like that. So that can highlight the emerging trends and evolve your community perspectives. And again, with summarizing discussions and things like that, it allows you to sort of contribute on your own schedule. You don't have to be always in and on the community, always responding to everything at the same time. You can get a summarization of what's happened, and then choose to respond to that and on your own sort of schedule. So this sort of leads to, hopefully, leads to concrete outcomes rather than just discussions. It gives you the tools to actually turn your discussions into something. It hopefully will help refine your ideas faster, by leveraging that knowledge within the community and guiding you through that, and enhances engagement. Because it's a more meaningful place than just discussions. Another thing that we can do is AI-driven knowledge organization and curation is particularly good at this. This is when you're taking what we call unstructured data, so all these discussions and things like that, and it's starting to structure it and starting to understand, oh, that's talking about this over here, oh, that's talking about that, So we can summarize, we can cluster topics, so we can take your discussions and sort of cluster them and preventing the ideas from fragmenting, really. You can sort of connect a bunch of different discussions that it goes, oh wait, all these discussions are actually about this idea over here. So you can sort of cluster everything together in a more meaningful way, rather than just being beholden to a linear discussion thread.
I think the ability to track topics across these discussions is one of the major things for me that you see, because that's impossible to do. It's almost you would never be able to do that before we had the use of this type of technology. And now you can, we can pinpoint certain times in videos and talks where people have spoke about certain things and put them in front of people very quickly. And that's just such a powerful thing to be able to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and again, that leads you to finding stuff more quickly. Yeah, so there's less time filtering through this, that, and the other on the site. And it can recommend stuff better to you as well. So it can, if it understands that you're interested in these sorts of things, then it can bring those to the fore for you. It can create self-evolving knowledge hubs as well, because it can cluster all this stuff together. It can restructure things on the site to sort of organize these discussions into sort of living documents. You can preserve those past insights. They can be updated. They can be surfaced dynamically, and reduces the repetition because all of this stuff should come to the fore more easily. And then it means the community knowledge evolves over time, so it has continuous learning. Then we have things like smart search, so you should be able to sort of ask a question of the community. We've done this for one of our clients, Digital Twin Hub, where we've taken all their videos and structured them, and you can ask it questions. It takes all that unstructured knowledge and comes up with some generative answer and links off to the source material. So you can ask a question basically of the community, and it should come up with some good answers. And overall, this sort of prevents knowledge loss. It reduces that sort of repeated discussions, and it should again enhance engagement because everything becomes a bit more relevant every time someone comes to the website. Enhanced engagement and expertise recognition. So this is about recognizing people's contributions beyond activity and personalizing what they see. So we can curate discussions based on expertise and surface the most relevant content to people. So when you get to the site, you're not just presented with here's everything that happened since the last time you were on here, or you have to troll through the forums and things. It can actually surface up relevant stuff for you and take you directly to it, which reduces the sort of noise that you get from these sort of platforms. You can start to I suppose recognize people's contributions and their expertise and their reputation within the community. So you can evaluate engagement based on quality and impact rather than just frequency. Which is important. I mean, that's a really clear distinction. We've never really been able to do that before, unless someone had to manually go, "Oh, that's a good post," let's elevate that person. So, and then you can recognize people who are thought leaders, and then you can use that to do sort of peer matching. So you, if you can understand that someone's a bit of an expert in this field over here, you've said that you're interested in that sort of field, it can recommend to connect with them. So you can get a much better sort of idea of who you should be connecting with on that community, and who you should be messaging. So it surfaces the most relevant voices, prevents popularity bias, encourages meaningful collaboration because you're going to connect with the right people for you, and it strengthens the knowledge sharing by ensuring expertise is recognized and utilized effectively. Then we've got AI-assisted governance and moderation. So this is about just helping your community managers flag up misinformation, spam, off-topic stuff. Because it understands what's being said, it can quite happily sort of say, okay, well, this thing, someone's talking about something over here is completely off topic. And this isn't about automatically sort of banning people or things like that, but it's about raising it to your community managers, so it can quickly, pinpoint stuff that might be worth them looking at and might be worth them sort of having a look and seeing if they need to do anything about it. We can look at sort of analyzing the patterns and of what's going on there, and actually updating community guidelines as well. And you can look at sort of bias, and things like that. You can look at misinformation, so you can help sort of maintain trust and credibility in these sorts of discussions. So you can create a bit more of a healthier, more productive space, reducing that sort of toxicity. If you've got some problem people there, it can highlight that more quickly, and basically helps your community managers and sort of reduces the more manual part of their job, in trying to sort of filter out that sort of spam or misinformation or toxic behavior. So this is important. So consensus and emerging topic recognition. You'll notice I've put 2 R's there. But there it is. So
I wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't have mentioned it.
Exactly. It's just extra important. So this is about turning a sort of discussion into actionable insights. So, I mean, this is something that we've not been able to do before, and this is the tracking the consensus over time. When you've got a community so some of our clients have had communities for 5-6 years, there's thousands and thousands of discussions, thousands and thousands of topics on there. You're never going to be able to manually make sense of everything that's going on there. But whereas actually with the AI technology, you can, and you can track all of that changes. You can see what's changed from year to year. You can see what's really hot right now, and you can really hone in on that. You can see what's trending, and see, if you can also see sort of where the discourse is happening. You can sort of say, okay, well, people are talking about this particular subject. 99% of them agree, and they're all in agreement there. But actually, when they're talking about this sort of subject, only 10% of people are saying this, 20% of people are saying that. There's a lot of discourse, a lot of discussion going over there, which can really help you as people who are running the community really hone in on things that are sort of real hot topics, really things that are really getting people to, have sort of polarizing views on. And again, identifying emerging topics so that you can focus on those and when you're publishing things. So impact wise, no human moderator could ever really do this. And that's a real big change. And it ensures that the community evolves dynamically based on real insights rather than fleeting trends. And you can strengthen decision making by highlighting patterns and expert discussions over time. And then into cross-community collaboration. This is this should happen sort of when a community is much more mature. If you can sort of connect different communities to each other, if you have a platform that has multiple different communities on them, where you can then sort of say, okay, well, we're doing this, but there's actually something that might be complementary to us over there. Perhaps you can connect to those communities sort of with a room or something along those lines, to sort of really start, branching out and leveraging the expertise from other communities in a sort of controlled way. So it sort of breaks out of the silo of your own community, and accelerates interdisciplinary innovation, and enhances efficiency in collaborative workflows.
Excellent.
So roadmap.
What does a roadmap look like? We've been through this process quite a few times. Obviously, you do need a basic community in order to have something working. So whilst we're saying the technology is limited and it's not quite there, you do need it in order to start. So, the start point would be to put a community into place and have some kind of platform. Given the distance of people, you can't do it all in person these days. So any kind of knowledge community is going to be based on a fundamental set of functionality, like the forums, the groups, and the messages. And then the community side that we've seen do it really well. They're really well curated. So we've been working with some communities that they almost curate their community experience offline, and then they bring it all online. So they're recording it all so it can be run through all the AI tools, and it's all managed very well. And then the network they're growing is all happening offline, but actually they're bringing all that online and they're anchoring it all in this online community. And then what that does is because they're creating discussions, videos, things to look at, things to see, place things that are interesting online, people then start to interact with them online, and then you start to seed your community. And that's really important because, then you can have a look at how it's engaging and growing. Then you can start to look at some of the AI-driven tools that Luke was talking about. So this is like an ever-evolving roadmap that could take several years to come to fruition. But then you can start to plug in the right tools at the right time so that you can further seed and make the conversation flow more easier, make the research happen faster, and bring all that to fruition. And then the co-creation tools, once you have this body of engagement happening with all these people, then by releasing co-creation tools, you then give them the platform to then start making their own points of view and their own changes. And their own, give them a platform to innovate in an innovation platform, basically. And then once you have those things going, obviously the cross-community collaboration is like the icing on the cake, because then you can potentially collaborate with other communities.
So summarize, just go back to it. In these expert-led innovation communities, they really need to sort of take that step going from discussion now to co-creation. So moving past that passive engagement, beyond discussion, providing the tools and the insights and the structured knowledge to really make sense and actually turn things into from just discussions and ideas into actionable insights and innovations.
And there you have it. Thank you so much for listening. As I said at the beginning, I'm James Wiley. I'm the Managing Director of Temper Digital. This is Luke Wootton. He's the Digital Director. We are creating our own innovation network community. This is our journey that we're on. It's an important journey of ours. And if you'd like to join us for discussions, for questions, and just to understand what's going on, we'd love to hear from you. We're going to be setting up bi-monthly meetings where they will be online and they will be based in central London. So if that's of interest, please do get in touch and we'll pop you on our list for the first one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.